I have tens of thousands of competitors. If you really wanted to break it down, every digital marketing agency on the planet is a competitor of mine. Every 20-something-year-old living in their mother's basement putting together a $17 ebook on how to get leads is a competitor of mine. But here's the thing: this is the bit that bridges it all together. The middle class compete, the world class collaborate. Hey there, I'm James Tuckerman.
And I'm Rana Saini.
And this is a joint podcast on...
It's going to be the proposals, how to send them and how to make more money from them. How about you?
I think I'll talk about things that are super obvious in business, and these two things will come together. Hey, Rana, what's the name of your podcast?
It's The Expert Advantage.
And my podcast is called Super Obvious. So if you're listening to Rana's podcast, come check me out. If you're listening to my podcast, check out Rana's podcast. Hey, why do you want to talk about proposals today?
Yeah, mate, it's one of those things that, like, our target market is they're corporate and they're consultants. And usually every new consulting gig is preceded by a proposal. And there's an expectation in the marketplace that and you've probably all had this happen to you before, where they turn around and they go, yeah, sounds great, just send me a proposal. And I think that's where business is won or lost, or is harder or easier. And so the linchpin for making money is the proposal. And so if you had a way to send proposals that converted faster, required less customization, and enabled you to sort of systemize the way that you sold so you got paid quicker and got to yes faster, I mean, that would be a pretty good advantage, right? And that's why I want to talk about it.
I know that it's one of those things where someone asks you for a proposal, and sometimes you're going, are they asking because they want a proposal, or are they asking because they're just being polite and they don't want to say no?
Yeah.
And then we have to go away and we have to prepare something. And the worst type of proposal that I know of is, we call it black art quoting. And that's when you go, oh, what is the client going to need? Let's add this extra bit here. And then you get to the final page and you go, how much? And you go, oh, well, you know, they could probably afford that, but I don't want to go too high, but I don't want to go too low. And then you lick your finger and you touch the air, and then you look in your crystal ball, and then you give them a number, and then spend the next 2 weeks, I don't know, wringing your hands and second guessing yourself whether it was the right amount or not.
Doing the fingers crossed, the hope and pray. So yeah, we've been using a template essentially for the last sort of 5 months, because we were pretty sick of doing that. Exactly what you said. And it saved us time, but it's also helped make us more money, because I think it's not just the proposal, but it's how you set up the proposal. Most people send a proposal and see. I think you've got to send a proposal and have a set outcome on the other side, like an appointment. So you're either selling a contract or you're selling a calendar booking. And I don't think you should walk away from it. Oh, there you go. I don't think you should walk away with either, without doing either of them. So yeah, like it's an important piece, and I'll share a bit of that today. But I'd also like to sort of get your take. We're kind of in similar industries, James. We do B2B, you've done B2B. Some might even say that we have a similar market. Your personality, your brand is a bit different to mine. I find it awesome that we can be collaborating and not competing, which I think is a pretty good topic in itself to talk about, how that works. But what is something super obvious that you think happens, before I jump into the proposals, that in your world people miss, that cost them a lot of money?
Well, yeah, I mean, like in my business, my main business is the B2B school, so it is all B2B, and our businesses align very closely together, and we serve a very similar base. A lot of the people that we work with are selling their knowledge, their expertise, their skills, and that's really, really hard, because you're not selling a $9 umbrella or a carton of milk. It's a complex sale, and I'll tell you one thing that I think is one of the super obvious pieces. And we are going to talk about proposals, obviously, but one of the super obvious things that I find is that the best type of proposal is actually no proposal. But
Right.
however, you can't do that until you've nailed your proposal. So when you know your offer, when you know your offer and you know your structure, and Rana, you talked about this before. You mentioned the idea of a standardized offer. When you've got like a standardized offer or a standardized proposal and you've got it dialed in and you've got it nailed down, the best type of proposal is no proposal. And I want to hear from you because you talked about the setup. But in our world, often the no proposal scenario is we deliver a verbalized version of the proposal on a strategy or a sales call, or we might even just send someone a Loom video and there's a button underneath it where they can tick a box to book a call or tick a box to actually go and buy the damn thing.
Yeah.
And put down a deposit or make a commitment.
I think you just said something there that is super obvious that most people miss. And the fact that you just have this low friction, low drag approach. So let's talk about the fact that most people expect that a proposal should take time to sell. But what you've done is gone, well, what about the person that might just want to save time and make a decision now? On the bottom of that Loom video is a buy the damn thing button, right? And how many times do we not just include the buy the damn thing button, which is a simple thing to just put in a Loom video, a link to a payment card that could actually save you a lot of time and the client a lot of time. But by not putting it there, the answer is always going to be, well, it's not even a choice. But by putting that choice in front of them, you actually have an option that you didn't have before. So I think that's really smart.
And it's two options. It becomes not like a yes or no. It's like an either or.
Yeah.
I can book a meeting or I can pay the deposit. And I use the deposit as an example there because I have people say, oh, that won't work for me because I sell something really big ticket. And I say, how big is that? And they go, oh, $9,600. Now, we have had people pay $9,600 on a cart form without ever having a conversation with anyone. But even if that's the case, a strategy that's worked really well for us is that if it's something like 9,600, we'll say pay a 1% deposit today for $96. And the first step is that you'll book the strategy call. So the video itself articulates the offer, serves the purpose of the proposal. Then they might tick, click a box, pay $96, which is the 10% deposit. Then they end up on the strategy call. You go into it in more detail about what you're doing. You've also now got their credit card details. And you can say, it's a $96, 1% deposit, 100% refundable. And if we have this conversation and it's not your cup of tea, we'll refund your money. And the worst case scenario, whenever that's happened in our world, is that someone has said, yeah, this is not the right fit, or we've gone, this is not the right fit. And they said, I'll just keep the $96, right? No one's demanding their $96 back, but 9 out of 10 people just, they've spent the 1% deposit and they just go, fine, how are we going to pay for the rest? And they might say, can I go on a plan? Or they say, just charge it or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a perception in the marketplace that a proposal should be a 35-page document that is sent and designed up in Adobe Acrobat, and you have to put hours into it that you don't get paid for. And I think it's, at the end of the day, we're both in business too. If I go to read a proposal like that, I will go straight to the bottom and look at the price and make a call on that. And all the effort that you put in thinking, I'm going to add this, I'm going to add this, I'm going to add, all you've done is put a lot of friction, and more information leads to more objections. It doesn't actually make for more value, although that's what we think, more equals better. And so what we've done is we've just nailed things down. We use Notion. So Notion is like an online platform similar to maybe like Google Doc, but a bit better, a bit higher end. And it's like you can make it as pretty as you want or not. And the way we do it is there are kind of 3 decisions. I'm just looking down because I'm drawing it here. But what I might do, I might just quickly share my screen and then jump out. Would that be cool?
I might
just need to get that enabled, and then we can riff on this because I think this is where you would be able to give me your thoughts. I'd be super keen to know. And basically, like when I think about the decision drivers that people have, there are kind of 3. Like the first decision driver that people have is money. Everyone's looking at cost. How much is this thing going to cost? So as you said, a 1% deposit or book a call. So you can make that as high or as low as you want to in a proposal. The other thing people are looking at is time. They're looking at how long is it going to take before I make progress? And I think the thing that most people miss, and they shouldn't, is that there are those people who aren't cost driven. but they're looking at it from an effort standpoint. So they're convenience driven, right? And that means that there are people who will pay more to go faster. And so in a proposal, what I see a lot of people do, you know, is they put their bias in the proposal, James. So they'll go, oh, I'm cost conscious, so I'll just try to make it as cheap as possible. Or you go, oh, well, I don't have a problem with money. I'm going to make it as expensive as possible because I'm worth it. And so it's an and or equation, whereas I think it should be an and equation. So we should have a provision in our proposals for a cost option and a convenience option, like an A or a B, because as you said before, it's not a yes or no equation. It's a this or that. And you know, if you just look at your model, we use a thing called a money model. But if you think about it, in the middle is a promise. All your business is a promise, and all people are wanting is an outcome. So if you don't have a clear and compelling outcome on the top of that proposal, the rest doesn't really matter. Even if you've got the best 32-page document on earth, no one's going to care. And around it, we need to have a plan. You know, we need to have a 1, 2, 3-step plan that's going to help them move fast toward that proposal. I would say in the first 90 days toward that promise. So sorry. And that needs to be compelling. So there's some clear, tangible outcomes that they're going to get. And in the corners, you've just got to look at what the process is. And the process is like the milestones, the phases. You know, what promise are you going to give them over time? So if the plan is short term, the process is longer term, and then you've got the pricing, which is either cost. We can do it with a course and maybe some group coaching, or there is a convenience if you want to go faster, where we can throw in some one-on-one coaching and also a course, and you can mix it up in the modalities that you want: one-to-one, one-to-many, a course, and you can mix these up as much as you want to, and your proposal essentially becomes a standard offer. And you know, in our world, like you would say, like you don't need to, if you have a fixed outcome, you don't need to change the proposal because all roads lead to the same outcome. You might just change, and the reason why people do change proposal is because they change modality based on the client. But the modality should be based on whether someone wants convenience or whether someone wants to pay less money. But either way, you want to give them the option so they can get to yes faster. And I guess that's kind of where I think of proposals like, you know, we have a whole breakdown on how we do that. And it just saves hours because you don't, as you said, you don't need to then go, what am I going to write to this client? How will that client want it? What do I, and you know, do that. How much is that going to cost? Standardizing it obviously takes the friction out of it. So, but yeah, mate, like, what are your thoughts on what people miss?
One of my first jobs was in a PR firm, and I actually was given the job of writing the proposals. And at the beginning was a big thing called a situation analysis. And I used to do research for every one of the clients about their industry. There's this big page, situation analysis, so that anyone could read it going, this PR agency fully understands our industry. And what a drain that was. I mean, like, I was a junior burger and I was earning hardly anything, so they could give that job to me. But as a business owner, if you're running your own shop and you're the key breadwinner, that becomes super duper tedious. But however, if you've got, this is my next super obvious observation, is that if you've got target audience clarity and you reference Rana's picture, you'll notice that there was this central core promise in the middle. And that means that if you have a clear target audience, they're all going to want the same thing. As Rana said, there's different modalities in terms of how we're going to serve it. Some people want it to be personalized and customized, or they might want it to happen faster and they might want some extra support. But the central promise is the same. Another thing that I'm just going to highlight about what you did, and I love doing this because, as we said before, we run our own businesses, we serve similar clients, as we train, we coach, we consult, and we've all got our own different ways of doing things. Our brands have got different personalities, even though we're very similar all around. But the other bit that I love of it when I see other people doing it is how Rana had the promise with the triangle, the promise with three different elements to the triangle. And if we're talking about like a frictionless offer or a frictionless proposal, I said before, what did I say? I said the best offers are the best proposal is no proposal. So for example, if you can draw something on a screen, like Rana just did a moment ago, and talk through it, you don't have to give someone a 35-page document and have them scan to the end and look at the price. Because the only way that they're going to get to the price is to slide ahead in the video, but then it's weird and it becomes meaningless. Or you can send them videos where people can't toggle, where there's no play button. They have to watch it from beginning to end to do it. I find that a lot of people just scan ahead and then see that and then move backwards and forwards. What I'm going to do, you've opened the door when you turned on the screen there a moment ago, right? You opened the door, you turned on your screen. I'm going to do the same because I'm going to show an extension or a variant of what you just.
It's a screen off. No, I'm just joking.
It is. It's a screen off. I gotta work out how to remind myself how to share the screen.
Yeah.
Do that as
I usually
well
have a button that does it, but I had to do it old school.
Yeah. So something that we do in our world, and this is what I was just looking at when I was thinking, there was the pyramid with the three sides, the triangle in the middle of the screen. And by the way, if you are listening to the recording, jump across to YouTube and you can find this. If you can't, if you're listening, but you actually want to see it, you can do that. Hey, can you see my screen? I think you can. Yeah. So one of the things that we do is that we try and break down our offers into 3 bits. And we already talked about, having a core promise. So in our world, what we do is we go, what is a common headache of the client, or indeed 3, and then we try and find the inverse, and that's what we sell. So in our world, one of our clients, one of the big ones is that they don't have predictable lead flow. So the inverse of that is, they're feeling invisible, they're addicted to word of mouth, the only clients that they get are through referrals, and then it's feast or famine, whatever it is. The inverse of that is to have some sort of predictable leads engine. And then there is a big happy moment, right? Then there might be another one that's offers, chasing people, chasing, following up, just circling back, just checking in, people do that again and again and again. But to have some sort of like consistent offer structure is also like a really important thing to do. It was interesting, Rana, when you were just saying then how you had the 3 different modalities, and one was like do it for you, one of them was do it with you, and the other one was just like one was like one-to-one, one was one-to-many, so, personalized stuff. Then we got group stuff, and then we might have a course, which is one to as many as you want. A lot of the people that we deal with, and I'm sure it's the same with you, Rana, is that they can't see their model being anything other than one-to-one, right? They're not, even despite the fact that they're sitting on years of knowledge and know-how and IP that they could productize. So the third big one for us is low-touch delivery. A lot of our clients don't have any way to do it low touch. So if you look at this, you end up going, would you like predictable lead flow? Would you like offers that close themselves? Would you like to embrace a low-touch delivery model that generates recurring MRR? The 3 things then come together to create something like, if you pull those 3 things together, a consulting business that can grow beyond you, right? Scale, something like that, right? Yeah. And that becomes the core promise. So that there becomes our 3 circles. Now, this is real. I really was digging, Rana, what you were doing when you talked about the different price points and the different modalities, and it immediately made me think of this. So on the screen, you can see this slide here, which is called What's the Investment? And this is an exercise in price anchoring and effort anchoring. And this is at the very pointy end of the deal. So Rana talked about having like 2 options. There could be option A or option B, which is better than yes or no. Because you go option A or option B, it's an either or. What we do is we try and offer 3 options. And we try and offer 3 options for an anchor pricing exercise. And I'm just going to throw down some random numbers. But we sit down, and the first thing that we offer would be like, say, the premium. Say $9,600, because I dropped that number a little bit earlier as an example. And then you go, and these are the 3 big things that we focus on, or here are the 3 big outcomes, whatever it's going to be. Or if you looked at Rana's modalities, you get one-on-one plus group plus access to courses, whatever it's going to be. You get all 3. And we call this the premium. Then we introduce option number 2, and you'll love this. We call this the Patsy. The Patsy. Yeah. Well, yeah. So we don't say the Patsy, but we go, here's it. So, you get to the end of the conversation. This is the document. And we go, the first option that we have is this amount. And we hope that this bigger one, you actually get that type of gasp of air, as the person goes, that's expensive. You actually want that, right? Because then they're looking at it and they go, I want all those three things, but that's kind of expensive for me. Then you introduce the Patsy, and I'm just going to make this $2,400. And this might be access to the training materials, unlimited access to the training materials, or it could be like one of the three big promises. So in my world, I might say, and that one there, we're going to focus just on the predictable lead flow piece. And then we have the preferred, the premium, the Patsy, the preferred. At which point we can say that based on where you're at, I think the best option for you is actually the $3,000 option, where you're going to get this plus that. And what we've done here is we've price anchored it here so that suddenly this actually seems really attractive, really affordable relative to the big number. It's a third the price. Indeed, that's what happens when we introduce this. We introduce the big one, they go, oh, that sounds a bit big. Then we introduce the Patsy and they go, that sounds like the one I want. And then you introduce the preferred, which is slightly more than the Patsy, but the value is so much higher. So the combination is that this is really, this is a really great deal from an anchoring perspective, but then it's also really great value from an anchoring perspective. So this is price anchoring and reverse price anchoring. Also in the top right here, I've got the word effort anchoring. It also, if you've got that type of model that Rana was talking about before, where you do have different types of people that want a little bit more hands-on support or a little bit more love, these can be anchored to be, this one on the right, you get lots and lots of support. This one on the left, you get no support. But then if you can introduce something plus a good level of support, we're also effort anchoring. And then this little thing at the bottom where it's a limited bonus. Another little funny this is a super obvious one for us. And when we realized it, it became super obvious. But this is like for everyone. Before you know something's not super obvious, and then you hear it and it's super obvious, is that we'd always meet people and they always have objections, right? Everyone's got objections always. And the best time to handle objection is before it comes up, right? So we made a list of about the 9 biggest objections. And a lot of them are to do with ability, or they feel that they lack something, or they're going to have to get something right before they do the next step. We took the biggest objection and then we turned it into its own little mini product. So we'd go, oh yeah, we've got the 9,600. Oh, that's expensive. We've got this. Oh, that's really great. But you don't get you don't get the support. But this one in the middle, you get the support. And it's only marginally more expensive. And they're going, that's great. Also, when you have a structure of 3, it's not yes or no. It's not either or. At the end of it, you can play the role of the advisor and the authority, and you can say, and this is the one that I recommend. So based on where we're at in the conversation that I've had, this one in the middle is the one that I recommend for you. And what I found is that most people anyway, I'll say, do any of these jump off the page? And they'll go, oh, I think the middle one is right for me. And then I can say, well, during our conversation, it was pretty clear that you were also worried about this other piece of the puzzle. But don't worry about that, because we actually have an extra bonus that I can give you right now. It is a limited time bonus, which means that you'll need to make a decision in the next 24 hours or the next 48 hours or whatever it is. And what I found is that this one here is often the best one, is a little bit of extra one-on-one time. And it might even be something that was already included in the package that you're going to do anyway. But the one-on-one time feels like an accelerator, or it's going to get someone over a hurdle. And it can be a scarcity bonus, right? The offer is scarce because it's your time, and your time is valuable and precious, and you've only got so much time in the day. The final piece of the puzzle here that I really like the best is that most people go, oh, I'll have the one in the middle. Occasionally you get people saying, oh, can I have the one on the left, the Patsy? And you might realize at that point that your pricing is maybe a little bit too high. But what I love is when the 5% of people or the 10% of people all want the most expensive. Because there's always some people there's like 5% of people that always want the most expensive. It doesn't matter. Like, they go to buy a mattress and they're always going to go buy the most expensive, right? If they're going to go buy a pillow, it's always going to be the most expensive. And what happens here is that when you start to get people doing the most expensive, it gives you the courage and the experience and the know-how to push all the prices up. And you progressively just increase your prices again and again and again. So how's that, Rana? We've got two methodologies and we've just dovetailed them together to probably create something brand new.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, I look at it. I think it's great. And the thing I see with pricing is that pricing is one of those things that is often in our minds that we project onto our prospect, right? Our clients often are corporate, so they work with companies. And the hardest thing for a company is that they don't get budget approval and they can't get into the decision maker. There's a fun, and they can't, and they're worried about pricing. And so the reason why we have those offers at the front is because they're like what we call our front end offers. And there's A or B, and you had a third one, which is really cool because A or B is like, one would be in a corporate world could be like a workshop or a keynote. And the next one could be a training or a program that they facilitate for a period of time, 30 to 90 days, which gets them in, right? Procurement, it gets them through budget approval. They can get in at like maybe 5K, 10K. Some budgets, a budgetary approval can be higher or lower. And then once they're in, then the back end of the business is where they make the money. And that's where we have option C. And option C is when you price, I think price should be aligned to progress. And when you can align price with progress, people say, it's like fuel in a car. If I put that much fuel in the car, it's going to take me that far. Well, that's okay. For now, that's all I have from a risk and reward perspective, which is how we make decisions. People either play not to lose, which is, okay, what can I afford, not to lose $5,000, or people play to win, which is, well, I just want to get to the destination. So having a workshop is a play not to lose, and having a training is a play to win. And then at the back of that training, it's always making sure that your offers link to another solution, right? Because as you solve a problem, it's not manipulation. So people see this as are you manipulating people? No, because when you solve a problem, you automatically create another one, and you need to provision in advance for that. And that results in advanced selling. So if I fix your lead flow, you now have leads. Now you're going to have a sales problem. If I fix your sales, you're now going to have a delivery problem. If I fix your delivery, you'll be knee deep in delivery. Your marketing needs to go to the next level. So you're going to have a marketing problem, because when you deliver, things change. Nothing ever stays the same. And so it goes round and round and round. In corporate, it's the same. There's some efficiency that they want, and once you do a training, what's going to happen after you do that training after 90 days? Most of the time, people just go back to zero. They go back to doing what they've always done. Having something where you can work on a retainer-based, recurring-based, IP-based, outcome-based pricing that enables you to stay with a company for a long period of time is where people build their business. At the front, you're not really building a business. You're probably building a hobby, right? Because if you don't make a sale, you don't get paid. So it's like going to the markets on the weekend, setting up a stall, selling $500 worth of, something, and then that's it. You don't make that money next month unless you go out and sell again. So it's feast or famine at the front. And I think it's at the back is where the business is built. And that's the other part of proposals. The proposal is not designed to get you into the back, this long-term thing. The proposal is designed to get you in. And I think that's the problem that people have, is they try to solve a problem that's too big, too soon, too fast, too expensive. And the answer is always going to be no. Whereas if you could distill that down into an offer that could be a simple, hey, why don't we just do a keynote? Why don't we just do a strategy session? Why don't we just do a training for your leadership team? why don't we just do a 30-day workshop and we just do a couple of support sessions after? And when you can distill it down into very small components, that when you add those components together, they create the foundation for a bigger engagement, it's easier to continue the momentum than it is to try to sell someone a mountain, right? Sell the first step, don't sell the top of the mountain. And your pricing and your proposal should speak to just getting them to take the first step, not trying to sell the whole enchilada. And I guess that's that strategy that sits in the back that I think we've all got to realize that, you know, when you solve a problem that's too big, or you try to solve a problem that's too big, it's usually going to be not urgent, right? Like making $1 million is exciting, right? And people go, oh, I'm going to make $1 million. If you sell that, that sounds like it's too far. But if you say, well, let me just help you make your first 10K, that's going to solve a problem faster, sooner, and feel more tangible and realistic.
You know what? We are just so absolutely on the same page with this. I just couldn't believe it, what you were talking about. Then I ran an accelerator earlier today, and I spent about an hour talking about what you just talked about. And I wish that I had your expression, align prices with progress. That was a great one. I spent about 25 minutes trying to articulate that point. But the other point, this is a real super obvious one, is that we were saying smaller promises get faster decisions. And Rana just said big promises aren't urgent, which is the absolute inverse of exactly what I was trying to say, which is great, coming at it from two different directions. Indeed, what you're talking about in terms of this purchase, we have a name for it. We call it the high no-brainer. The high no-brainer. Some people call it, in supermarkets, they have loss leaders. No, you don't want to lose money on this thing. You want to make money on it, right? But it's a high no-brainer. And they look at it and they go, oh yeah, half-day strategy. That sounds good. Or an audit. And I'll give a really good example, a practical example. We had a guy come into our world, a guy called John. And John was, Jon, so he's a little bit different. Drop the H. But he was a funnel analytics guy. That was his job, funnel analytics for everyone. And he came into our world and we said, listen, you're trying to pull together these monumentally large proposals for all these different people. Is there a target audience that you really like to work with? And he said, not-for-profits. And we went, great. So why does a not-for-profit need funnel analytics? And he said, oh, they need more donations. That's what they want. So I went, okay, you're not a funnel analytics guy. You help not-for-profits get more donations. He's like, right, that's far more compelling, right? That's the standardization of the offer. There's a big promise in there. Then what do you sell? Oh, $30,000 projects, right? And how's it going? Oh, they're really difficult to close. So one of the suggestions that we made is that we said, why don't you offer them a $3,000 audit and go in and find out how they're losing donors? Just go in to find out how they're losing donors, $3,000. And he came back and he said, this is like 48 hours after we'd made the suggestion. He said, I've closed 2 clients since the call. And the reason, and they were people that had been sitting on the fence for months. One of them had been 1.5 years that he'd been wooing for 1.5 years. And he gave them a high no-brainer. But we know, sitting here talking, we know that he would have sold that audit. And then exactly as Rana said, then there's the back end. So the audit goes and shows the 3 big things that are broken. And then he says, what we're going to do is over the next 3 months, we're going to fix this big thing. The 3 months after that, we're going to fix the next big thing. And then the next 3 months after that, we're going to fix the next big thing.
Yeah, and that's the milestone. That's the milestone thing, right? Like I think when you look at the modalities, the milestones, and the mechanics that sit behind it all, you realize that's where money comes in. That's how you monetize. You've got to take into account all 3, and you've got to chunk down to the smallest possible unit of decision making, and then help them understand the highest possible service level over time. You can't just push that in front, and you'll find your sweet spot. Everyone's different, as you said. Some people love one-on-one coaching. Some people hate one-on-one coaching. So you've got to build a business around what you love. And that's the other reason why customizing a proposal around a client is essentially building your business around a client, which is a really bad strategy because that client doesn't care about your time, your money, your lifestyle. They only care about theirs. So you either build your business around clients or you build your business around yourself, and clients fit into what you want to do, the way you want to do it, with the people that you want to do it with. But look, I think it's awesome. And, I just want to circle back. I know that where time is going, it's been a great chat, mate, but just a quick one. And this is for some people that might be, I'm going to take a left turn, and that's, you and I do similar things. What's your take, James, on the fact that, why would you do a podcast with someone who does something similar to you? And what's your mindset around that? Because this is a big thing people get worried about in the expert space, which is, I don't want to put my stuff out there because I don't want my competition to steal it, or I don't want to talk to my competition because I'll lose clients to them. Like, you go first. What's your take on that?
Well, firstly, anyone watching this would have seen Rana draw a picture, and then they would have seen me draw a picture. And we're both demonstrating the ways that we would help people pull together a proposal or do the pricing piece. The themes were very similar. And the reason why is because there's nothing new under the sun. We've just been around long enough to figure out what works and what doesn't work, right? But however, someone else before us figured it out too. And we probably learned from those people. So there's nothing that's really new. It's just there's different ways of presenting that information that reflect your own personality and your own style. The other thing is that our competitive landscape, Rana, is people say, who are your competitors? I have tens of thousands of competitors. If you really wanted to break it down, every digital marketing agency on the planet is a competitor of mine. Every 20-something-year-old living in their mother's basement putting together a $17 ebook on how to get leads is a competitor of mine. But here's the thing: this is the bit that bridges it all together. And I can't remember who first said this to me. I think it was a guy called David Hobson, a great, smart digital marketing guy. Worked with Nathan Chan at Founder for a while, did some stuff with me way back in the day. But he said, the middle class compete, the world class collaborate. And it's the same way that Apple owns shares in Microsoft and Microsoft owns shares in Apple. It would be hilarious if the biggest, ruse of the last century was that, Pepsi and Coca-Cola were owned by the same business. That would be hilarious. Yeah. The reality is that we both attract similar clients. Some people are going to be more attracted to Rana's style. Some people are going to be more attracted to my style. That's fine. That's cool. We can learn from each other. We can collaborate. But the reality is, I don't just buy Coca-Cola. Sometimes I buy Pepsi,
Yeah.
And I just see it again and again and again. People buy from me, they buy from Rana, they buy from another person down the road. Then they hire an agency for a bit and they build something. Then they come back to me. Then they buy a course from Rana. Spenders are spenders. And our target audience, when they need something, they're gonna go to the person that's the most present, or the person that's around them, the person that they like, that they trust, the respect. And people just don't buy one thing. They want to work with lots of different people, and they want lots of different perspectives.
When I first sort of started in business, I was in the fitness industry, and anyone else that was a personal trainer, I would be like, you'd look at me, I'm going to beat you, kind of thing. I also think what happens is, when you've got a lot of competition, it also means that there's a lot of consumers. So what it does is it proves that your market is fertile and very rich with opportunity. And if you have a scarcity mentality of, I need it all and I don't want to lose it all, if you focus on that, you'll focus on the loss. And that's why I say you can play not to lose. So if all I'm trying to do is go, I don't want James to have any of my clients and I don't want my clients to see anyone else, you play small and you shrink. And I think people are excited by people who are expanding and growing, and you can't expand and grow if you have a mindset of, I don't want to lose. You always have to be, I want to win. And the easiest way to win is to collaborate, is to actually talk to people and say, hey, let's share. Because as you say, we both sell ice cream, but you might sell chocolate, I might sell strawberry. It doesn't mean ice cream's bad. It just means some people like that flavor, some people like that flavor. And every now and then there's a bit of Neapolitan, right? We all get together and have a good time.
Just a thought experiment, dude. Quick thought experiment, right?
Yeah.
So you have a big email database, yeah? 20,000 or 30,000, something huge like that, right? So do I. But I'll tell you what, do you have 20,000 customers, paying customers? No. So I've got a database of 20,000. I don't have 20,000 customers and clients. I've had people on my database for like 5 years that have never bought anything from me. But you know what? I might do something with Rana. They see a video.
We have done, right?
Yeah. And they immediately go, that's the guy that I need. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same deal, because this is the way we're all surrounded by people that, we're all surrounded by people that could be our customer or they could be someone else's customer. The reality is that if you've got anyone out there's probably got a database of 1,500, even if they don't even know it yet. You know, if they just exported their contacts from Gmail, they've probably got 1,500 contacts. But however, very few people have 1,500 clients, which means that there's opportunity in there to share the spoils. And I know that someone that works with Rana is going to get value, right? And I'd like to think that you would think that anyone that works with me is going to get value.
But I wouldn't collaborate with, you know, we've done a few collaborations, mate, on a few things and email outs, and I wouldn't do it. The good thing about you is there's integrity, and I love that. Like if you say you're going to do something, you do it, and vice versa. And I think we have the similar values, although we might serve similar markets. Similar values is what counts. And as you say, some people might go, I really like the way that James says it, and some people might say, I really like the way that Rana says it, or I like the energy of James. Not because Rana's not a good guy or vice versa, not because James isn't a good guy. I just feel I kind of get the way he speaks and draws a bit better, or vice versa.
Well, they go, James is too overwhelming. I think I'm going to go with Rana.
But at the end of the day, if we're all in the business of helping people, which we all say we are, then it's kind of like being a doctor and saying, I don't want my patients to get well, right? You have to be willing to let someone go to grow. And if that means they go somewhere else, well, you've got to be big enough to go, okay, say la vie, right? There's someone else down the road who will come into my world. And I think that's really important at the baseline of it.
If my network are winning, that's all that counts. And I will be successful, and Rana will be successful, and we'll all be successful if we're just helping our networks win.
Yeah. No, man.
Probably a fun point to end on, yeah?
Yeah. That's great, mate. It's been awesome chatting with you. And mate, we'll keep collaborating.
Let's keep collaborating. And guys and gals, I hope you got value in terms of how to pull together an offer. The best offers are no offers. The best offers are standardized offers. The best offers are ones that you can talk through on a screen. The best offers are the offers where you have multiple options. The best offers are all tied around a central promise. The best offers can be stacked and packed. And the best offers, especially in the beginning, are smaller offers, because all we really want to do in the beginning is get someone to make a decision where they're playing not to lose. And then when they're in our world, we can align price with progress, because at that point they're playing to win. Yeah.
Love it. And mate, if people want to learn more about you, where can they go?
B2bschool.co is our much needed as our website that is in much need of an overhaul. I'll tell you what, go to b2bschool.co/now. I'll create something better on the other side of that link. How's that?
Awesome.
What about you, mate?
Yeah, just expertproject.com, and we have some free trainings and free resources, or just follow me on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I'm sure it's similar to you, mate. So, and let's keep the party going, hey? Good to chat.
Woohoo! Shakum.